what I should have done for my intro is duplicate myself, because for the first time today, we have 2 guests. You get a 2-for-1. I should charge you double. So today we have George and Marty Lee Andrews on the show. I mean, okay, so I'll tell you the truth. I'll give you a little bit behind the scenes look into how we did this. Stephen Cole came on the show. You remember him. And he mentioned that George Lee Andrews was a part of one of his shows. And I was like, George Lee Andrews, why have I not had George Lee Andrews on the show yet? Because I went to college, Wagner College, with Harper Lee Andrews, his granddaughter. And so I've known that her grandfather, I don't know if you know this, but her grandfather has been her grandfather for a long time. And her grandfather is George Lee Andrews, which I knew, and I didn't even realize in putting this podcast together. And so I'm so happy that the 2 of them came here, sat on our big long couch, which is new as well, you might notice, and did an incredibly special podcast episode. Unlike, it's one of those that you have 2 greats talking about their careers that are just like, I think a lot about preserving stories, and that's what we've really been pushing to do. And this is one of those episodes where we got to look at each other and go, gosh, I'm so glad that people are going to get the chance to like bask in the glow of these stories. Just to riff off some of their, career highlights. George Lee Andrews holds the Guinness World Record for having been the one person in the longest run of a show ever. George was in The Phantom of the Opera from 1988, I believe, to 2011. From the original cast to 2011, 24 years, which is the longest time one person has ever done a show, which is pretty remarkable. But he was also in the original cast of A Little Night Music. That's why I sang that song. Duh. And his wife, Marty, was in the tour of A Little Night Music and played a bunch of different parts, but notably Frederica. And on top of that, they have an incredible career. The 2, Marty was in Candide at Brooklyn Academy of Music. They both had a really close relationship with Hal Prince, and we get so many good Hal Prince and so many good Hal Prince Sondheim stories here that it's just like, that is such a unique, special, incredible moment in history that I'm so glad that we get the chance to shine a light on and talk about. And they've just had 2 remarkable careers in the industry. To riff off some other credits, starting now, original cast. Merlin, original cast, starring Nathan Lane and Cheetah Rivera and Christian Slater too. Just fascinating stuff. They're a really sweet couple. We get to talking about how they met. It became a little bit like the Newlyweds Game, and also an episode of our podcast, which was really special. I really loved having the both of them here. This episode means a lot to me. They were incredibly kind and gracious with their time. Harper got to be here for the episode as well. So it was one that I'll never forget. It was one that was really, really special. And I can't wait for you to see it as well, because I think that these stories need to be heard. They're incredible and brilliant. So let's cut to it without further ado. This is George and Marty Lee Andrews' I Want to Be Like You. 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 Welcome to another episode of I Want to Be Like You with Elbi Cespedes. I want to introduce you to George and Marty Lee Andrews. Thank you guys so much for doing this. This is like a true pleasure, and I'm like, I can't believe, like I told you guys, I can't believe that I waited this long to reach out to Harper to set this up. And also I want to mention this, Harp, like, feel free to chat. We're just like here having a conversation. So Christian and Angel will be chiming in as well. So we start the podcast with the same question every time. And it is, who was your I Want to Be Like You when you were a kid?
Wow.
Well, I have one. I would go to Haley Mills movies. And she was Pollyanna, and she was in a lot of wonderful movies. And I was a kid younger than her. And I just would watch her, and she was so honest. She was such a real person. I thought, I'm just a person. I could do that.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of wanted.
How old were you?
Oh, probably 7.
Wow.
But you were in children's theater, so.
Yeah.
But I wasn't in children's theater. I was, we would do things on our front porch. We'd put shows together, make them up, and,
oh my.
that was a lot of fun. And we would do a lot of shows on our front porch.
Did you write the shows too?
Yeah, lots of improv.
I love that.
Kids are such great actors.
Yeah, and talk about being honest. Like kids,
that's
especially
why.
at that age, like that's kind of the perfect.
That's why you got to get to that real 100% honest level if you can.
Right. How about you, George? What was your?
Well, there were a lot of people because I got into theater, and all of a sudden I was in love with so many people like John Rayett and who's the choreographer? I can't remember his name.
Bob Fosse.
Yes, of course.
Bob Fosse.
See how much I liked him? I can't even remember his name. But yeah, I was just idolizing all the different people in theater because I was trying to get into it myself. And
how did you discover them? Did you see them in movies and stuff, or were you seeing theater?
how would I what?
How did you discover them?
Oh yeah, from movies and record albums. Record albums. We were all able to get albums of West Side Story and
Oklahoma.
and Unsinkable Molly Brown, Harv Presnell.
Oh,
all
sure.
those people just knocked me out, and I tried to emulate them if I possibly could.
Yeah.
And just do whatever I could in the theater.
Yeah. How old were you at that when you discovered
Well, I did stuff in high school. Mm-hmm. And then when I got out of high school, I lucked into a small professional theater company in Milwaukee, and with a producer named Bob Simpson, and he just kept me working.
Yeah.
From the time I was like 17 or so.
Mostly nightclubs.
Nightclubs, some shows, yeah.
Yeah.
But he just kept me working, and finally, I kept thinking I was supposed to go back to school for a while,
Yeah.
But after about 5 years, I just said, no, this is it. I'm in this now.
Yeah. Well, did you guys see a lot of theater? Where you're from? You were from Milwaukee originally, and you're from, am I right, West Virginia? Yeah, West Virginia. Did you guys see a lot of theater?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Little stuff.
A lot of, not even a lot of movies, but a lot of television.
Right.
I mean, I was probably 5 or 6 when television started happening.
Sure.
That's how old we are.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I did Brigadoon.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was a junior in high school. And then when I got to be a senior, this theater company was doing Brigadoon in Milwaukee. And so the Nun took us to see it, and I think that's the first thing I ever saw on stage, really. Even.
Oh, really?
And then that's a year later, I was in that company.
Wow.
So
when was the first time that you came? Well, I should ask, when was the first time that you decided like this was something that you wanted to pursue as a living? Because now there's BFA programs and all over the country.
Yeah.
There's it feels like there's a little bit more of a route and like a way to follow and things to check off. But at the time, how did you decide that this was something you wanted to do?
Just came by the seat of your pants.
Get into somebody's good graces, who's can give you a job.
And luck has a lot to do with it. I mean, being in the right place at the right time has a lot to do with it sometimes.
Yeah. Did you guys when was the first time you came to New York?
I didn't go for 10 years to New York.
Wow, really?
Because I
How
felt
old were you?
I was about 27 or 6 or so.
So he'd already been married and had a child and got divorced, and then he came to New York.
Wow.
And
yes.
When I was in high school, I did great plays and musicals and did the leads, like in Look Homeward Angel and other shows. And then I went to college and did some amazing leads at West Virginia University.
Oh, very
cool. Got to do Maria in West Side Story, and I got to do, My Fair Lady, and we did a ton of musicals. One of them was The Fantastics.
Yeah. That
was off campus, and then so when and then I went to the Muni Opera in the summers between college years. Mm-hmm. And that was a springboard into New York because I met so many people that were coming back here to live. They were already living here doing summer stock. And so I got to come to New York and send my first picture and resume out, and it was to the Fantastics. They just happened to be looking for a girl.
Wow.
And so that was my first audition, and I got that job.
Oh, wow.
So that was, and I was living in the Village at the time on Hudson and Christopher, and I could just walk up Bleecker all the way to Sullivan Street.
Oh my gosh,
job.
That's so cool.
And he, when I was in rehearsals for that, was around the corner doing Jacques Brel at the Village Gate.
Oh,
and
funny.
We didn't meet for 9 months. We didn't even meet.
Yeah, that's funny.
I was able to work in the Midwest and the West with a couple of directors and producers, and they kept me working those years, those 10 years, in Denver and Minneapolis and Chicago and
And you were
Milwaukee.
in the Army, too.
I was in the Army for a while, but
Oh my gosh.
Like
By
20
the
years.
way.
but I got an idea that I didn't want to go to New York if I couldn't go with leading man credentials.
Right.
So I didn't want to go in and try to just be in the chorus or be in. So I wanted to build up a resume where I could go in. And so I did that. So I stayed out for 10 years. And finally, when I went in, I was able to say, well, I've done this lead and I've done that lead and that lead. And
Yeah.
so I was able to get some decent kind of jobs then and not
Right.
feel as though I was scraping around, you know.
Right, right. I always ask the question, it's like a tradition to ask this question on the show, which is, what was the job that got you your equity card?
I did the world stage premiere of State Fair.
Oh, wow.
And Oscar Hammerstein's son, Jimmy Hammerstein, was the director. And he gave me a role out of the chorus. And Tommy Toon was the choreographer, and he was also in it. And Ozzie and Harriet Nelson played the married couple with the pig. I don't know if you know State Fair, but
Vaguely, I should know State Fair better, honestly, but I don't know it very well.
and it was the world stage premiere, and Richard Rodgers came and gave a speech, and it was so moving to him that he broke down a little bit in his speech. So there was Richard Rodgers just right there in front of us and backstage, and we were seeing him, talking to him, and
No, but that's not so great. I got my equity card. I got my equity card with the Kohler Plumbing Industrial Show in Chicago.
Park.
That's where I got my equity
Oh
card.
my gosh.
Yeah.
in Central Park.
No, that was a different one. This was in Chicago.
Oh, in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's funny. Was Richard Rodgers working on the show? Or he just came for the...
No. He
Okay,
had
gotcha.
written it, it had already been a movie,
Right.
but it had never been on stage.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that's funny. Was he as much of a pioneer? Did people look at him in that way at that time?
He was a god.
Yeah.
He was an icon. He was one of the most prolific, valuable people to the business.
Yeah. Already.
Oh
that
yeah.
point,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Because this was in 1969.
Sure.
And so he was already an older
25
guy.
years of work that,
But he also did all that work with Hart. With
Oh, right,
and
of course.
which is
Rogers
a good
and Hart.
movie. Rogers and
Oh,
Hart.
good movie out right now.
Blue
Blue
Moon
Moon.
right now.
Yeah, did you guys like it? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
I
it's
want to
good.
see it.
It's really good.
it's
I
great.
didn't really I wasn't so sure I wanted to see Ethan Hawke play Hart, but boy,
Right.
he was great.
I've heard he's brilliant.
He really was wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Andrew Scott.
Andrew
Yeah.
Scott is
Yeah, he is
wonderful.
incredible.
He plays Richard Rodgers.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's incredible
He
in
was
everything.
good in that.
Yeah, I want to see that movie. What was I going to ask? And then we also asked what was the how did you get your first agent? And was that a thing that was as necessary as it is now?
Yes, it was necessary, and the way I got my agent was, well, you come to New York and you keep sticking your resumes and pictures under people's doors and try to get in there, and it's difficult because everybody had the people they needed already, but you have to keep trying. There was a little lady named Dorothy Scott who worked for an agency called Marge Fields Incorporated, and she called me one day and said, "Did you come in and see me?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I just heard you sing Joey, 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 and I really loved how you sang it in the audition, and I wanted to know if you would like an agent." So she kind of
she
just
was it.
reached out and got me, and then I just stayed with her for years and years.
Wow.
And so that was a lovely piece of luck. She wasn't a high-powered agent,
Sure.
but I didn't care about that. I just loved that she was a good friend of mine and
Yeah.
liked my work.
At that point, how long had you been looking for an agent?
I probably was looking for 2 or 3 years by that
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
when I finally hooked up with her.
Right. Right. How about you, Marty? When was the
A friend of mine, J.J. Jepson, who is now my next door neighbor in Birchwood Lakes.
Oh, funny.
he came to see the show, The Fantastics, and he went back to his agent and said, "You should get this girl." And so Peter Sergetti came and got me.
Wow.
I never gave pictures or resumes.
Wow,
to
that's
agents.
amazing.
I never ever did.
So finally something clicks.
Yeah.
You do all that walking around and trying to get the right break, and eventually, hopefully, something happens.
Yeah, and hopefully
Gets you in the
something
right
good,
place.
because it's a relationship that's like meant to be. You're supposed to have the same vision of what you want. You know what I mean? I think that's like a hard part for a lot of people my age with finding an agent and retaining an agent. Is there's always feels like a discrepancy behind, like, are we on the same page here, and are we fighting for the same thing, and how do you see me,
Yeah,
and what do
it's
you see me in,
complicated.
and things
Yeah.
like that. So.
Yeah.
When we started out the business, people weren't schooled in show business.
Right.
You pretty much learned on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
You pretty much learned by watching other people's work.
Right.
And but now it's so competitive for you and
Yeah.
for Harper, for all of you, because people are so well trained.
Yeah.
And there are such great theater programs
Yeah.
throughout the country now. I mean, it's just like, it's another world altogether, another world.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys about the show that you guys met doing, which was comedy in 1972. Can you tell me the story about how you guys met?
Yes, we met at the Esplanade Hotel.
Maybe I should, I should do is I should ask you to tell it, and then you to tell it, and see if the stories match.
Yes. Well, it's funny because we thought differently about each other, but we both got these Broadway shows, our first Broadway shows.
Yeah.
It was our first Broadway contract.
Yeah, so
for him
finally,
and for me.
so finally we had something to go to that was looking like it was going to be good for us.
Right.
And we went to the first rehearsal on 74th and Central Park. 74th and West End Avenue, which was a little hotel at that time.
Big hotel with a ballroom.
Yeah, and so we went for that first rehearsal, and there was a little room off the lobby, which they took us into to introduce us to each other. And I always thought, when I saw the cast list, I thought, oh, this is about 3 guys and a girl.
Because my name's Marty.
Because there's Marty and there's somebody else, and all of a sudden, it says, this is Marty. I'm like, oh, you're Marty. But at that time, I was kind of a cowboy, and I had long blonde hair, and I had a silver shirt, a satin shirt, green satin shirt, and cowboy boots and things like that. And she said that her initial thought was, oh, this is some kind of a mama's boy. And I thought to myself, when I first saw her, I thought, well, this is one of those kind of stuck-up ingenue types that you meet around New York. And so...
That didn't last long.
No.
Right.
No. Yeah,
I don't want to say something interesting about auditioning. When I auditioned for that show, I had a boyfriend, not George. I had a guy from Long Island that was my college boyfriend. And I was for my audition, I was so sick. And I was with him, and I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to be there with him, and I was so sick. But I thought that it would make my agent mad if I didn't go. So I just got up and I went, and I didn't care. And sometimes when you're sick, you give a really good audition because you're not so nervous.
Oh, that's interesting.
You don't care that much, and
you work a little harder somehow. I don't know.
that takes away tension, and you're a little more relaxed.
Yeah.
So I had to hit a really high note. I don't know how I did it because I had flu. It was awful. But then I got that job.
And we
And this is for comedy.
Yeah, comedy. And
Yeah.
we started having fun, although it was kind of a strange show, but we had fun. And then we were rehearsing at the Colonial Theater, right?
In Boston.
And we were kind of, and I remember I said to her, we were all supposed to play musical instruments.
No, this happened in rehearsal at the Esplanade.
Well, we were all
And
using
and
musical
while
instruments.
we were in rehearsal in New York before we went to the out-of-town tryout, he asked me out for a date, and we went to see Slaughterhouse-Five, the movie. That was our date.
Oh.
And I was going to my girlfriend's house in Queens from Manhattan that night after the movie in Manhattan. And so he took me to the turnstile and we had a kiss at the turnstile. I swear to you, this is true. Bells went off really and truly when we kissed. It was so great. And I just thought.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Because the next day we went to Boston for the tryout, and I had a really kind of a bad hotel named the Avery, but I said, come on, go to the Avery with me, let's have a drink and let's see, because we had kissed.
Yeah.
And so that was...
we ended up together that night.
We were never not together from then on.
Yeah, 50
Wow.
years
Till
this
now.
year. 50
Wow.
years. 50
Wow.
years.
But I wanted to say that I did go up to her and say, we were all supposed to be playing these instruments, and this was my line that I used to work. I said to her, she played the trombone. She played a trombone when she was a kid too.
Yeah.
And so I took her aside. I said, your lips look so good when you play that trombone.
Wow. Someone
was it.
should write that down.
Look how it worked. So if you want to use that line sometime on someone, you could just say, even if they don't play the trombone, you could say, you would look really good playing a trombone.
I love that. What did I write here? I wrote something down here. So tell me what I was going to ask you in regards to comedy was, it was intended to come to Broadway, so that's why you guys were doing the out-of-town tryout at the Colonial, but it never did. Is right? It never came.
We did the tryouts in Boston, but it folded.
Okay.
We were in Boston 1 month. Here was the problem. The guy that wrote it was a professor at Carnegie Mellon.
Okay.
And he was an expert on
Commedia.
Commedia dell'arte. And
Okay.
this
This
show
was
was
a commedia
done
play.
in the style of Commedia dell'arte. And there were fabulous actors, real veteran comedians who were in the show. George S. Irving and Joe Boba. They were brilliant people. And the guy that wrote the show and directed the show, he should not have directed the show because he didn't know how to treat actors. And he sort of was treating these veteran people as children in a way. I mean, it's not a good way to get the work from them. And so that it kind of screwed things up.
Did you guys get the sense while you were rehearsing it? Like, I'm not sure that this will...
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I wanted to say that our little stint in comedy was great for us because we got together and we cemented our relationship and we're having a great time.
Right.
Also, here's where the luck comes in. I always say, well, you got to have really luck and you got to be in the right place at the right time.
Right.
But there's an addition to that, which is if that happens, you have to be able to deliver. So anyway, what happened was I got into a little night music while we were in rehearsals for comedy.
Oh.
So, and I told them because they didn't want to hire anybody that already had a job.
Right.
So I said, I'm on a 4-week out and this doesn't look too good anyway. If I get this job, I'm definitely going to bail and go right into that,
Yeah.
And I got the job, and that started out a period for Marty and I to fold into the golden years of Steve Sondheim and Hal Prince on Broadway, and we became a part of that group, and it was just
That era.
We just had a ball. We were like the kids in that group. And all those
And we were
brilliant
hippies.
people.
They liked that we were hippies.
Yeah.
They liked to party like hippies.
Yeah.
And they knew we partied. And
we partied with them, and we were all hippies.
And Hal, they kind of took us under. He kind of took us under his wing.
Yeah.
And we started a family, and that continued that.
It was very unusual in the business to have actors with a child. And we took our child to all the parties, and then she would just sleep in the morning like we did. and that was really good.
That's awesome.
But we
So
were like in
And
awe
so
of this
that was
milieu.
fascinating
Yeah.
for people like Stephen and Hal and people like that.
yeah, well, it's still pretty fascinating. I think that even now having a kid, in the theater is something that feels bold. You know what I mean? Like,
But theater people are such fabulous people. They're such sharing, generous people and artists. And, that's who you want your kids to be
Yeah.
growing up near.
Yeah. Well, I almost don't even know where to begin, but I guess I should ask you about that initial Little Night Music audition, because you were going in for pretty much every male in that show, as I understand it, right? You were going in originally for the Count, I believe, right?
No. What happened was I was doing this show. We were doing comedy.
Right.
And Joanna Merlin, who was the casting director for Hal,
Yeah.
called my agent and said, "Is George Lee Andrews in town? Is George Lee in town?" And my agent said, "Yes, he is." And Joanna Merlin said, "Because he's never in town. I'm always trying to call you and find out if he can come in. And he's always out in the hinterland somewhere."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to make insurance money and unemployment. And I
Right,
have a family. I've had a family to raise." And so, but she said, "Oh, yeah, he's in town." And Joanna said, "Well, I'd like to bring him in, because Hal sent me back to my files because he's been trying to get this one part called Frid, and he's seen a bunch of people already. People had auditioned 3 times, 4 times for that role, and Hal was never happy with whoever he saw."
Right.
And at that time, that part was supposed to be an American in night music,
Okay.
observing the Swedish people.
Yeah.
And so he had in his mind he wanted this American. So I come to the audition and I'm wearing cowboy boots, Levi's, a
Satin shirt with embroidered
satin
wings.
shirt. I had long blonde hair, and I sang "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning."
Oh, wow.
Because that was
Can't really be more American than that.
my go-to song. So I sang.
So Swedish.
And Hal said he watched me and he told Joanna Merlin, "Call him up and see if he can come back this afternoon, because I want to bring Steve in to take a look." Because it was for night music. And so they called me up and I wasn't really doing anything in rehearsal. I said, "Oh yeah, I'll be in there." So I went in and I sang again for Hal and Stephen. And remember, people have been auditioning for this part for months.
Right.
And good, really great people too. And they called me later. My agent called me later that evening and said, "You got the job. You got it."
Wow.
So it was just, again, it was the right place at the right time. And Hal saw something that was useful and he grabbed me. And then I got into night music. And then,
Had you auditioned for Hal before that initial audition?
No.
You never met him even?
No.
Wow. So how come Joanna had you in her files? I guess for other things.
Well, my agent would send my pictures to her
Sure.
all the time for any kind of show. Just to keep me in, she had a whole file of every actor in New York.
Right.
So Hal said, "Go back to your files. I'm not seeing anybody I care about here, and you got to find somebody." And so Joanna's like, she's digging way deep, and I'm way in the back of the file somewhere because she stopped calling me in. So she pulls this out and gave my agent a call, and
Yeah.
Have you seen any Sondheim Prince shows yet?
I beg your pardon?
Have you seen any shows on Broadway, any Sondheim, Hal Prince? Had you been a fan of them beforehand, going into that?
Yes, everything.
Yeah.
Company.
Yeah. Because at that point, they had company.
Had we seen
Yeah.
Company, for sure.
Company, you'd seen shows.
Follies, I had seen.
Yeah.
But
Did you see Follies originally?
we knew all the history of everything because we were studying it. I remember doing shows in Milwaukee, and I was going with a dancer friend, and she said, "Wait till you listen to this." I went over to her house one
What
evening.
was it?
West Side Story.
Oh, yeah.
She said,
That was a while ago.
She said, "Listen to this."
66.
Because this is something that's brilliant and brand new. And we listened to it, and I'm like, "Holy cow, where did that come from?"
Right.
And Hal was a part of that.
And
you know.
Steve didn't even write the
Hal was-
music, he just wrote the
the
lyrics. And
lyrics,
Bernstein
Yeah.
wrote the music.
Yeah.
So we knew all those connections already. So when I had a chance to go in front of Hal, I didn't have any hopes maybe that he would grab me, but he did.
Yeah. And this was a huge thing because this is your Broadway debut.
It was a huge thing.
Yeah. And did it feel like that in the, was it a talk of the town thing? A new Prince and Sondheim musical? Was it like, it was?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, what's interesting is
we were in heaven.
They had just done Follies, and it was a bit of a flop, and
right.
they weren't feeling good.
Sure.
They weren't happy.
Yeah.
So there was a lot riding on A Little Night Music.
Right.
And it was hard in rehearsals.
Yes, but I got this job, and not only was it the part of Frid, but he had a song.
Yeah, Silly People.
And he had it, and it was an incredible song.
Right.
And when they did the orchestration of it in Boston at the tryouts, everybody was like, "Holy cow! Listen to that orchestration by Jonathan Tunick. That's the most brilliant thing ever." And then it didn't fit in the show, and so they kept trying to get it in the show, kept trying to keep it in the show. I think I did it for 3 weeks in Boston.
Oh, is that right?
And then one day, Hal would come in the beginning of the day, and we were all sitting in the audience waiting because he'd give us notes, and then we'd have to work on the notes. So he comes in, and we're talking, and Larry Guittard, who was doing Count Carl Magnus, we were all pals by then. He sat down next to me. He'd been waiting for a new song. He'd been doing a song called Bang.
Bang. Oh, I love that song.
He'd been waiting.
That song.
He'd been waiting all this time because Stephen had promised him a new song.
Yeah.
So he sat down next to me and he said, "Look, I got my new song." And he put it in my lap. Uh-huh. And I'm there sitting with him, and I'm looking at this, I'm going, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And Hal comes in, and he walks up on the top of the stage, and he looks down, and we all shut up, and we waited. And he said, "Well, the bad news is we're not going to do the show with Silly People tonight." Which meant...
And what did Larry do?
Larry reached over and took his music and said, "Poor baby."
That's unbelievable.
And he wasn't kidding. He knew, and he felt that, and everybody felt it. And all of a sudden, I was still in a great place, but I was opening in the new Stephen Sondheim Hal Prince show on Broadway, not singing a note.
Right.
That was gone then.
Right.
So, but these things all just then opened up later. I got to do it in the tribute, and that made the whole difference. And then, I think Hal also felt that he wanted to do something, keep me doing something, because I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Like when we were in college, I mentioned her. It feels like every episode, but Michelle Pauk, who I call her the fairy godmother of this podcast. She was our first guest, and also she's just been a huge supporter, and
she's lovely.
She's the best. And so when we were in college, I remember her saying this to me, where she was like saying this to all of us. She was like, "I hope all of you get to originate a new musical, and I hope all of you get your own song, and then I hope that song gets cut."
Okay.
She was like, "Because I want you to experience the how humbling it is, because it'll help you realize that the show is not about you, And I thought that that was something that really, really resonated with me, because she too was in a Prince and Sondheim show where she got her own song and it got cut, and then her whole character got cut, So I was gonna ask you about that with Silly People, because it is a beautiful song, and it's like this, in theory, it's this fitting match to Miller's Son, because they come back to back, and it's so it's very interesting. I imagine that experience. It's not a great feeling to get a song like that.
But what? They hadn't done Miller's Son yet. They only had. No, they hadn't done Sin and the Clowns yet.
Right.
And then when Stephen came, I think he did it overnight, Sin and the Clowns. When he came in with a new song, then Silly People was between Miller's Son and Sin and the Clowns. Uh-huh. They were both powerful songs.
Too heavy in the end of the show. Too heavy.
With Silly People in the middle of those two powerful songs, Miller's Son being the 11 o'clock number, and, Send in the Clowns just being just such an important song to the show, then silly people didn't
Just
Hal
didn't fit.
kept trying to make the show be like a
work
bubble.
Mm.
He wanted the lightness in the show. She didn't
Right.
want to be it heavily laden, over heavily laden. So I knew that I knew they were working on the song and that they didn't think it could happen. And they loved the song, but it couldn't work.
It really was a genius of them. You left every show wanting more.
Yeah.
They had cut what they needed to. Almost every show has like at least 5 cut songs.
Yeah.
And for him, he talked about it Sondheim. He said it was like cutting off an arm. It's like
right.
To save yourself, like you have to move on because you've written this whole thing, put your heart and soul into
Right.
that.
Right. Yeah. Did you get the feeling when, what was your reaction upon listening to this Sondheim music, original Sondheim music for the first time? Did you get the impression, oh, this is going to be a part of this? Like, it's an iconic show. For me, it's one of my favorite Sondheim shows ever. It was one of my favorite musicals ever.
a little night music.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that it's also so ironic and funny. And I think that it's like you listen to that music, and obviously, Send in the Clowns is Sondheim's biggest hit, in the grand scope of things. But did you get the feeling listening to this score for the first time, like this is
Yeah.
Yeah.
We loved it, and we went on tour with it for a year.
Right.
And I remember sitting in my dressing room.
Every night.
I think we were in Detroit at that time, and I was just sitting in my dressing room, and the Liebeslieder singers started the show. And I just was sitting in my dressing room waiting to go on, and all of a sudden I just had this feeling. I thought, I get to listen to this whole show again tonight.
Right.
And I knew, and I did it, we listened to it for 2-3 years and longer than that show. And we loved it every time, its intelligence and its beauty, and it was just
You're right.
Yeah.
it was just an incredible treat. I wanted to say real quickly that a quick little anecdote. I got that song cut, and everybody was devastated, and because it was terrible to hear that your song.
Right.
So, but I was called up on stage to work on the rehearsal, and probably fitted in where the song was cut. But I went up there, and I went on the side of the stage, and I sat against the wall on the floor, and I'm waiting to go on, and all of a sudden I look, and Hermione Gingold comes walking up through the vomitorium or through the side, and comes in, and she looks over and she sees me down there sitting on the floor, and so she comes and walks over, and she comes and sits on the floor next to me. She's 68. So she came, she sat down on the floor next to me. She just sat there with me. And then she just turns to me and she said, in this business, you have to be like a rubber ball. They knock you down and you have to bounce right back up again. And then she got up and walked away. And that was such a sweet moment and so thoughtful of her to touch me like that. And understand what a devastating thing it was, but it's just, that's it. You go on, make it all work again.
Right. Yeah. You guys have had such a history with this show, and you directed it in South Africa, which is such a bizarre, why were they bringing it to South Africa?
Well, Hal got approached by a producer in South Africa, Toby Kushlik. And
a woman.
She said, she ran a theater company down there, and she said, Hal, I want to do night music.
Yeah.
And Hal said, well, okay, you can do night music. I'll let you do night music, but you have to have my director to do it. And so, and of course, the two of us had been with the show already for 2 or longer years.
Right.
And so I get a call. I'm in Denver visiting your mom, and I get a call, and George, yes, hold for Hal Prince. So Hal gets on the phone and he says, George, listen, I want you to go to South Africa and direct a little night music for me.
Oh my gosh.
Who is this? What? Are you kidding me? But he was serious.
Crazy.
And he just moved it right through. And I said, you have to let me take Marty because she's the one, she knows the show better than I do because I just finished doing it for 2 years. But she, first of all, watched it for the first year and then did it and did 3 parts in it for the second year. And so I need her to be there and give me a hand with putting that together properly.
Plus, Hal loved travel so much, and he wanted it. It's a gift. He wanted to give it as a gift, sort of. And he said to George on that phone call, here's how you do it. You fly to Rio, and you go from Rio to Cape Town. I mean, he had like the trip all planned, and he was just excited about the trip.
Yeah.
But when they were initially asked to send the show to Africa, they didn't want to send. Hal and Steve didn't want to send it because they didn't like what was going on in the country because apartheid was so unbelievably horrible.
Yeah.
The way people were being treated there.
Right.
And, but people in the parliament, more liberal people that Hal and Stephen had talked to said, don't do it that way. Come into the country, do the show, do it from the inside, make demands. And so
make the changes you need to make.
And Hal and Stephen gave up their royalties to
and Hugh Wheeler too.
Black artistic companies.
Wow.
And
gave up all
and
their
they
royalties.
made stipulations that there be a night for blacks, that there be a night for mixed races, that there instead of just all white.
And that blacks could be able to work backstage.
And the
these
crew
are all,
guys,
These are all
they were all
totally
from
brand
Soweto.
new
They were
things.
all from the township, Soweto.
Yeah.
They had curfews. They had to leave Johannesburg at 11:30 and go half an hour, 40 minutes to their town and live in Soweto. They weren't allowed to be in Johannesburg.
Wow.
But they got to do the show, and that really broke things open.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it was a pretty wonderful thing to do.
How was it received in South Africa?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
It was at His Majesty Theatre, a beautiful theater.
Oh, yeah.
And Johannesburg
It was an international cast.
International
They had
cast.
brought people from England and from Australia and from
A couple
America.
of South
and
Africans.
it was a whole cast that they
and German.
got together.
Yeah, wow. Was it received immediately very well here, too?
What's what?
Was it received, like, very well here right away? Right
It
off the
was.
bat? Yeah?
I remember that it was.
Yeah.
What was?
People loved it when it opened here.
A Little Night Music?
Yeah.
Listen, I wasn't in the show on Broadway, but I went to see the first invited dress.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have the panels moving or anything. It was just kind of on a raked stage, and it was just kind of stationary. And it was just the costumes and the orchestra and the actors. And it was so magical. It was unfettered. It was like a champagne bubble, because that's what a Little Night Music really is, like that. So we did do the show in South Africa, and we went to the opening night in London because Hermione and Gene Singer were
doing it up there,
starring
so-
in it, and
Yeah.
they were, had previously been Brits. And so that was a big deal. We went to opening night, Little Night Music in London, which was just phenomenal, because you think of how reserved British are.
Right.
But the Brits at the end of that show were up on their feet and crying.
Wow.
I couldn't believe, what I
Yeah.
was seeing, because
Yeah.
of their reserve and everything. But that really, the show was, but the best place I feel we ever saw it was George and I took a trip after the tour. We took a trip in Europe, a 6-week trip, and we went to Austria. We went to Vienna, Austria, and saw a production of A Little Night Music in Vienna, Austria, all in German. And it was just like exactly what A Little Night Music should be. It was just so buoyant and bubbly and wonderful. That was my favorite one. And it was beautifully performed too.
Yeah.
By the cast.
Yeah, we were connected with night music for a long time and loved it that we were.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time hearing Send in the Clowns and him throwing it
Yes.
in there the way that he
Totally.
did? What do you remember thinking about it?
Yeah, well, we all flipped because Stephen had a habit of taking a long time to get songs in to the
Right.
show. and Hal would be driven nuts.
Right.
And he would say, "Come on, you gotta bring me this song. I need this song in the show." And "Send in the Clowns" was one of the very last things that he came with. And Hal's like saying, "Geez, she needs to have a song." So I think it was really the first run through on the stage, and the show, that song was not in the show, but they said, "We have a new song," and I think he said that Glynis, Stephen has been working on it with Glynis, so she's going to sing it for us. And so everybody just relax, and we're going to hear Glynis's new song, and then we're going to do the run through, and then we'll put it in later. And so she stands up there, and the pianist plays, and he plays "Send in the Clowns," and you couldn't even believe it. It was such perfection, and just the right thing that was needed to pull the show right together at that moment,
Right.
and make her be the real lead in the show.
And written for her voice, which wasn't much of a voice.
Right.
But it was just so moving because Stephen just did it in that middle range there so that she could really handle and really act it. And I remember Stephen's directing Gene Simmons in the tour on Send in the Clowns and saying to her, "I don't want to see a pretty woman up there singing a pretty song because that song had a lot of pain in it and regret and a lot. He really wanted it more said and acted."
Right. When you went on tour, you were Frederica, right? You were Frederica, and then you said amongst what were the other parts that you played in the show?
Well, I understudied Petra and I understudied Anne, but I got to go on for everybody.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Which one was your
great.
favorite?
Oh, Anne.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I have to say Frederica because Frederica, that's a magical role.
Yeah.
Because she and her grandmother are weaving this beautiful spell about the night and the smiles. And it's like the heart of the show. And it was Margaret Hamilton, who was one of the dearest people and one of the very dearest and one of the hardest working people.
Right.
And so making that magic is probably the best. But it was really exciting to go on as Anne.
Yeah.
And I got to do Anne a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You run into disappointments through your career and along the way, and big disappointments, and that seem like they're not going to be a disappointment. They're going to be something exciting and wonderful, and then it just kind of falls apart. One of the things, we're in Chicago, and Marty was not doing Anne, and another girl doing Anne, and I was doing Frederick, and all of a sudden we get the company manager calls us and says, "We're going to put Marty on for Anne now. We want her to do Anne, and we're going to tell the other girl that she should take a night off." That was not so great for her, but the reason we're doing that is because
I didn't know that.
Hal's bringing the producer from London to come, and he wants him to see you and Marty do, because he would maybe like to take you to London to do the show as those two roles. And so we're like, oh my God. And he came, and we did that, and we met him, and then we didn't hear anything for a while, and but we had high hopes, and all of a sudden somebody called us and said, "No, Actors Equity won't let you do that because Hermione's their equity won't let you do that because they're already using Jean and Hermione, and so they have to use English actors." So that was that. The other thing that happened is we're on tour again, and Hal comes to me. I had done a reading of Pacific Overtures in New York. I would do readings for Hal every now and then. And
oh my gosh.
we did that, and I did this part of Manjiro in that reading. And Hal comes to me when we're on tour, and he says, "I got a great job for you. You're going to do Manjiro. We're going to do Pacific Overtures. Steve Sondheim's going to do it. We're going to do it as a musical, and you're going to play Manjiro." I thought, I'm going back to New York. I'm going to have a good job. I'm going to have a new show and a part. Oh my God. So this is what he said to me. And all of a sudden I started reading every book I could on Chinese theater and, preparing,
Japanese.
waiting. And I'm waiting for this word, waiting for someone to call me and say, okay, we're going to, and I didn't hear anything. I did all this studying, and all of a sudden the company manager just kind of says, oh, and Pacific Overtures, they're doing it with all Asians. That's all I ever heard. I never heard, Hal never called and said, yeah, well, I'm sorry I told you that.
That's showbiz.
Right. Yeah, no, truly. Yeah.
So, okay. Swallow that. And,
yeah. But you did a reading of it before Sondheim had even written anything.
Yes.
Wow.
I did a reading for Sweeney Todd, too, before it was done.
And Kevin Kline played the Beetle.
The Beetle.
And you played Pirelli, the tenor.
Oh, my gosh.
I did not even know that.
That's crazy.
Glenn Close played your role.
Stop it right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we had a little intermission in the reading, and they gave us meat pies. But the thing that was really memorable about that is Angela Lansbury did the reading.
Oh, no.
And she was...
What did Glenn Close play? Probably...
Beggar Woman?
No, probably...
Or no?
No, if Angela was doing Love It, then...
Greenfinch and Lilliput.
Joanna.
Joanna.
What?
Joanna?
I guess
yeah.
Joanna.
She played Joanna.
Wow, Glenn Close was Joanna.
But Angela... So everybody was...
Oh, yeah, Angela.
It was just a reading, and everybody was doing their best, and it was a little bit in and off. But Angela was there. She was already in that part, totally in that part. It was already perfection.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a real eye-opener, because you saw, wow, this is really something. This woman is something.
Yeah. Well, at that point in Sweeney, Sondheim was already attached and everything? And
Was what?
Oh, yeah.
Sondheim was already attached?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was a reading of the actual musical.
Wow. So you got to sing the Pirelli song, too?
No, I don't think anybody sang the songs.
Okay.
I think Stephen kind of sang the songs that were ready.
Yes.
Angela might have sung.
Yeah.
But most people, the songs weren't ready yet.
Yeah. Gosh, that's such an exciting, it's like such a bizarre concept to me because, and this is the reason why I asked that question earlier about Richard Rodgers too, is like, it feels because Prince and Sondheim are both gone now, they've become that much more immortalized as like legends, and they don't feel like real people, you know what I mean? And
But they were
to me,
legends.
They were legends
because
then.
they worked so hard.
right.
And they put everything on the line, and they just, what a life.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, we were in heaven.
Yeah.
We were kids, and we had our families, and we got into this milieu,
Yeah.
and we wrote it as best we can.
Right. Right.
And we couldn't do it. We didn't do it all the time. We had to go get other jobs. We had to go to dinner theater and do something, go to carousel.
Right.
We did this and we did, because there wasn't always a job for us, but they kept us right on the fringe, and Hal always had us in his mind in a nice way. I remember we had been out someplace doing a show for a long time, when we had our little kids, and we came into town, came back to New York, and we went to a fair on Columbus Avenue, and all of a sudden we run into Judy Prince and Daisy Prince
That's
in
Hal's
the
wife.
fair, and we'd like, hey, hi, nice to see you. Oh my gosh, because we were kind of friends, we were pals, and I said, we've been out of town. I said, what's Hal doing? And Judy says, you don't know? I said, no, we've been out of town. I don't really know. She said, last night Hal opened the largest hit in London theatrical history. Last night was the opening, Phantom of the Opera. And she told us about this and we talked about it. And when we thought about it when we went home, I'm like, so maybe in a year they're going to come into town and maybe I'll be able to get an audition for that.
Oh
Right.
my God. Every great actor in New York wanted to get into Phantom of the Opera. And
Really?
he got an audition, and I went to play for his audition. I played for a lot of his auditions.
Oh, wow.
And I went downstairs in the basement at the Majestic Theater, the Schubert Theater or the Majestic? I think the Majestic. I went down in the basement where all the guys were that were going to audition for the parts in Sweeney.
Every comedic character actor
Phantom.
in New York for the managers.
And big stars like were shaking in their boots at this
Wow.
audition. It was incredible. It was all wonderful, wonderful actors that everybody loved auditioning for these roles and everything. So
So
It was a big deal.
I gotta finish telling this story too, because at that audition I sang and they had me sing some of the manager's music, and Steve and Cameron McIntosh and
not
Andrew
Steve.
Lloyd Webber.
No, Steve. No, Steve.
Oh, no,
Hal,
Steve.
Hal.
I'm sorry. Wow, that's wrong.
No,
Hal.
it's okay. Hal, yeah.
I mean Hal.
No worries, yeah.
They were sitting in the like halfway back in the audience, maybe 3/4 of the way back in the audience, watching the auditions. So I sang the audition, and Hal said, and all these surrounded by all these guys, and Hal said, "Dude, wait a minute, George, just wait a minute, we have to talk." So I just stood there, and it was a long time, and they were arguing about something, the three of them. And what it was I found out later, Cameron McIntosh was saying, no, Hal said, I want this guy to do Donatello and understudy the managers. And Cameron McIntosh said, no, in London, the guy who does Donatello, he understudies the Phantom. And Hal said, don't worry about that. I'll get somebody else to do that, and we'll get this, but I'd like to get this guy into doing Donatello, and if I can, and he can. And they argued about that for a while, and finally they said, okay, George, that's okay, thank you. And then Hal gets up out of his seat, and he walks all the way down the aisle on the side, way on the side, and he said, come here. So he calls me all the way over to the side of the stage, and he's down in the well, and he looks up at me and he says, I really want to get you in this show. And I'm like, okay. Because it's Hal,
Yeah.
holy God. And how would he even say something like that to me? But see, this was really a part of his loving our family too. And he knew what this show would mean to us.
Yeah.
He knew that this was going to be something that would be really valuable to us.
Right.
And of course it was.
Right.
But he had that kind of loyalty and so that kind of feeling inside him, and we saw that many times from Hal.
Right.
But that was one of those astounding moments.
Right. What was it? The thing that made that? What was the convincing he had to do, or that helped you get the part?
He just told him that's what he wanted. You mean convince those guys?
Yeah.
He just told them, no, we're going to do this, and I've got somebody else to do that. Actually, it was my friend Jeff Keller, who they said, I've got another guy to understudy the Phantom, and he'll be fine. And then we can switch George into that, and then he can he'll understudy the managers, and play those roles.
Right.
And he just switched it, and just made it work.
Right.
Switched it around.
Yeah, that's incredible. But I want to ask you about, so from what I understood, I heard you say this before somewhere that I was reading in prep for this, and it was that when you were on the tour of Night Music, there was, you wound up, or maybe it was the opposite, you went to do Candide at BAM, right? And was that before or after?
Before.
That was before, and then you got Night Music, and that's what made you leave Candide, is that right? Okay.
I was doing, no, I wasn't doing Candide. I went in and auditioned for Candide.
Okay.
I remember I had a yellow turtleneck on.
This is a great story.
And I auditioned for Candide for Hal.
Yeah.
And he said, Marty, I want you to come back this afternoon and audition for Steve Sondheim.
Okay.
for another show, for the tour of A Little Night Music. So I came back
see.
in the afternoon. I sang for Steve Sondheim, and I sang My Ship. My ship has sails that are made of silk. Anyway, it was one of my numbers. And,
Where's that
And
from?
he said, "What? Huh?
Where's that
it's
from?
just I think it's from.
It's Kurt Weill.
Oh, okay.
It's a Kurt Weill song.
Sure.
Anyway, Steve said, "What key do you want to do it?" And I didn't know the key, and I said, 5 steps up from where I should have, 5 steps higher than where. So I'm singing it, and so that final high note was going to be 5 notes higher. And Sondheim knew it, and he just let me go on and just make a fool of myself because I could not hit that thing, like the highest note was an A, and this was going to be above high C.
Sure.
And so anyway, he said, "Well, maybe you want to do that again." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it in the key of C." So then I sang it again, and he said, "Okay." He said, you'll do, we want you to do Candide.
Hal said this?
But you can't, Hal said, "We want you to do Candide, but if it goes to Broadway, you can't go to Broadway because we want you to do Frederica in A Little Night Music." So the tour,
understudy those
you'll
other
go
parts.
and do the tour and understudy him. And so he gave me 2 jobs in one day.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
So that was like one of the best days of my life.
Yeah, right. But when you did Candide at BAM, right? Because that's where they were trying it out. From what I understand, Bernstein came to see it, right? Was he wasn't working on it, right?
He came. He cried.
Yeah.
And he loved it. It was funny. Hal had just had the flop with Follies. And he wasn't very nice.
Financial flop, not a...
Right.
Wasn't very nice to the actors putting A Little Night Music together. He was hard on people.
Oh, really?
He was never really hard on George. I don't know why, but he wasn't. And then, so, I would hear these stories about how Hal was treating people in A Little Night Music and everything. And then I was doing Candide, and Hal was like a kid. I was like, this isn't the same guy at all. He was like a kid because he had pulled people out of Cincinnati Conservatory to do the leads and had all these young 20-year-old people.
Right.
And he was getting off on people were bringing him Red Zinger tea. He's like, "Look at this, Red Zinger tea." And he was like kind of turning into a kid again. In a way,
well, there was a big difference because...
with doing Candide.
Because Night Music was the last show he had produced. All those shows.
He directed and produced.
And they drove him nuts, that producing situation. And finally, he takes this Candide job, and he's not producing. He's just going to direct it. Right. And he was having a ball. And that, he changed. He became a different person after that. I mean, because he didn't really produce after that. He just said, "I'm not doing this producing thing anymore because it's driving me nuts." So she'd go to rehearsal for Candide, and I'm doing Night Music, and we'd come home from rehearsal, and I said, because Hal was really rough on people during those Night Music things. I mean, he put people in tears, and Pat Elliott didn't even come to rehearsal one day.
Wow.
And then Larry Guitard said, "I'm never working for him again." And he
Mark
devastated
Lambert
Mark Lambert. Hal was just really hard on people. So she comes home from rehearsal, and I said, "Well, how was Hal?" And she said, "We had so much fun. He was just like a kid. We were just playing, and he was laughing, and we were having..." I said, "What? Hal Prince?" Because that was like the total opposite of what I had experienced.
Show business back in the 60s, maybe even there was a nastiness really backstage. There was a catty, and that all kind of evolved, and show business went away, and people from that, and people shared more, and people supported one another more, and
No, it was really about the grinning of America, which had to do with drugs, but people changed. People started to realize that you didn't get anywhere by being nasty, really. You got better if you were easy, and you were easy on each other, and people loved each other a little bit. And there was a book called The Greening of America, and that really did happen, and it really kind of did have to do with drugs.
Sure. Sure.
and free love.
Yeah. But what I was going to ask in regards to this is like with Hal, do you think that it was all attributed to the fact that he felt the pressure because of Follies, or was there something else there that made him so,
No, huge pressure because he had to he had to bring people together and sell it.
Right.
Because he was producing it and he had to have backers auditions and
That's a
do all
big
these
show.
things that
Right.
he did not want to get involved with and do.
Right.
And it was rough on him and it was a financial flop.
Right.
Which he had to then raise all that money again. And it was really difficult to raise money for a Little Night Music, but he
So you
did
just
it, but
took it out
drove
on the
him
actors.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
But so it was really very difficult, and it made him not enjoy himself so much. And later
Right.
on, he was able to figure that out a little bit and
Right.
walk away from that. He got other people to do those jobs.
Right. I heard you mention this once, and I was passively, and this has to do with Sondheim, and I wanted to know just a little bit more about it. The Sondheim scavenger hunt parties.
Wow. we were in one. We did one.
Okay. And what were they
It
exactly?
was Linus's birthday.
Okay.
And they were moving from one theater
From the Schubert
to
to
the
the
Majestic.
Majestic.
Okay.
And so he and Anthony Perkins, who was his great friend, they got together and made this fabulous treasure hunt. And
They didn't make games all the time.
And so
Really?
this was a party in the Schubert to say goodbye to the Schubert. And the party took place all over the Schubert. And you went and you got there in the Schubert and you were given an envelope and it had puzzle pieces in it. And you had to find other people with the same, it was a shot from the show.
A photo from the show.
Probably Martha,
Cut
what's her
into
name?
puzzle
Who
pieces.
was
Swope.
Martha Swope probably took the picture. And so they cut it up into 5 pieces. I think there were teams of
This was
5.
after the last show at the
Okay.
Schubert.
So I think they were teams of 5. So you had to find out who the 5 people on your team were. And then you put this picture together and there were clues on the back.
Oh my
as
gosh.
to where you had to go and find all these things. Like, for instance, one of the clues was, I remember this, where are Petra's petticoats? And the lyric is Petra's petticoats are way up high. Mm-hmm. So then you figured way up high. And so then you made your way up to the balcony and you're looking under seats and you find a clue under the seat.
Oh my God.
And so then the whole party, so there are like 5 or 6 or 7 teams of 5, however many, it was a big party.
And Sondheim put this all together?
With Anthony
And Anthony Perkins.
But
Wow.
Sondheim did these games like nobody's business. Now there's a book out about Sondheim's game playing.
We're supposed to talk with him this weekend.
And we're talking with that author, but what's
Yeah.
the name of that book? Something like
I don't
Sondheim's
have it at
Game
home.
Mind. I will find out and let you know.
Wow.
So this was just one of many.
No,
But then the final, when then the person that won, or the team that won, found in the outer lobby, under a picture of Sam Schubert, this ticket box where the tickets used to go into
Sure.
the ticket box, a big wooden box, and inside were like 6 bottles of Mum champagne, and
that was the prize.
That
That
was
was
the
the prize.
treasure. in
But
the
they
box.
did these scavenger hunts with their crew, their people, all those stars that they
Their
ran
friends,
with.
their friends like Adolph Green and Betty Comden and
Bernstein and
Bernstein and
all of
his
them.
wife and
All over New York, they did these.
No
they
way!
Hired,
All
they
over
hired
the
limos. They all had limos, and they went off on these treasure hunts all over New York, riding
my
around, just
gosh.
running around looking for things. And they did this a bunch of times.
Yeah,
That's
there's a
amazing.
book about it.
Yeah.
There's
Wow.
a book.
And it came out already, or you
Yes,
guys are
it's
interviewing
already
for
out and it's popular.
it? Wow.
Yeah,
It's a popular.
Yeah, but I think that's only about that particular. Well, maybe it's not. It's really about.
No, it's about his game
It
mind.
is. It is.
It's about,
It's about Steve.
Phyllis Newman came to
Phyllis
Steve
Newman,
once and said,
Adolph
"Listen,
Green."
something. Everybody's really down in the show. Something's really going on. It's not so great. Can you just get together a game so we can lift everybody's spirit?"
Wow.
And one of your famous games.
That's so cool. That's so
He
cool.
was a game guy. His whole apartment was filled with
Sondheim's-
various kinds of games.
Yeah, fabulous chess sets and
Yeah.
and all kinds of things like that.
I love that. Okay, you scratched the surface on Phantom, and I have to ask you about it because you hold the Guinness World Record for the person who's been in a show for the longest amount of time. And if I'm right, you did 9,383 performances. Is that right?
How do you do that?
That's what I'm wondering.
I mean, so you wound up booking Phantom, and it was a huge hit in London. But I mean, I don't think I understood that it was expected, that the anticipation was that it was going to be a smash hit here as well.
It was going to be a smash hit here.
Yeah.
But we would say, when I got the show, or when we talked about getting the show, we would say, if I get this show, if you get this show,
He could run for 5 years.
I could have 2 years. I could do 3 years, in this show, which was, we have a family, so that was really important. So that's the way we thought about it, but it just exploded. But a quick little note, I'm walking down the street on Broadway, and Adolph Green and his son, Adam, are walking down Broadway too, and I see them, and we had done On the 20th Century together. He's a great guy, but he was really pretty old at that time.
Adolph
and he
was.
looked old, and Adam was helping him along, and we meet on the corner, and
George had worked for Adolph before.
George, how good to see you. And I'm like, Adolph and Adam, wow, wonderful to see you. And so Adolph said, George, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, well, Adolph, I'm doing Phantom. And without a blink, he says, condemned to eternal salvation.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's the kind of mind he had, just brilliance right off
So
the bat.
then George went to his dressing room at the Phantom, and he wrote that on his mirror, condemned to eternal salvation.
Wow.
With like eyebrow pencil.
And that's what it turned out to be.
Yeah.
I loved it. I had a ball. I had a great
So
time.
lucky.
Yeah. I mean, did you? Well, I was going to ask you about it being a huge hit, but you already knew that going in. I mean, when was the point where? I guess it's a hard thing to say, but when was the point where you were like, oh, this is going to go well beyond 5 years? This is because I imagine that it was immediately well received and it was embraced by the city and beyond pretty right off the bat.
I want to say one thing. Every 6 months, that contract had to be renewed. Every 6 months for every year he was in it. And when that time came,
So that's 48
you had to
renewals.
look around. I don't know. Am I going to get
Because
renewed?
people were being let go. People were being
For
dumped.
years and years and years. That contract had to be renewed every 6 months.
Wow.
And so, yes. And, Hal saved me. Because Cameron McIntosh, he kept wanting to clear the decks. He kept wanting, he'd tell Hal, no, we got to get new people in there now. These people have been in there too long. Those managers, George and other people, and people did get let go. And Hal just held that off. He just stopped them. He said, no, the New York company, that's my company. I like the way it is. I don't want to go back to the company after being away for 6 months and there's all new people in there. And then I have to tell them how to do the show again. I like who's in there and I like what they're doing. So I'm going to hold the cast that I have now in New York. It's another nice moment of that, of Hal saying, no, George is going to stay in there. I'm not going to get rid of him.
Wow.
He's staying in.
Yeah.
So, and I went through, I went through a lot of different things. I went through mental stuff. I went through physical stuff. I went through physical stuff where I was really hurting my back, my legs. And
But didn't
I thought,
miss.
I gotta get out of here. I can't stay here. Or I would start losing my mind a little bit, and then I would say, no, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here, because people did that. People said, I gotta get out of here. But I just said, no, I'm going to just change my attitude and make this work and enjoy it like I should be. And I learned one thing. I learned all of a sudden that I would lose my mind at the end of winter. And after going through winter and trudging through the snow and the cold in New York and commuting back and forth and dealing with that and doing the show, all of a sudden I noticed I'm losing. This is where I start losing my mind a little bit. And when I found that out, I changed that. I just said, well, I don't have to worry about that anymore because I'm not going to do that anymore. You know,
Interesting.
I'm not going to get upset about that anymore. I'm just going to be strong and understand that I have to be strong now at this time. Mm-hmm. So I learned about that, and it just allowed me to stay.
And
Yeah.
another thing, he would come and say, the thing about doing this show, every single night it's a new audience. And those people paid a lot of money to see this show, and they deserve to see the show the way the first people that saw the show saw it. And so you want to keep that integrity. Plus, it's a team effort, and so you're doing your show for your cast members.
Right.
So that their show is wonderful. And so it's that collaborative thing and that generosity, that you get with actors on stage.
Yeah.
I kept bringing up into my brain the joy of doing the show and how valuable that was and how lovely that was and how important it was. And also I learned, okay, I'm going to walk now on stage and it's going to be brand new. And I'm going to make it be alive, and I'm going to make it be alive for all these people, and I'm going to just enjoy that and love that about the show. I also loved all the people I was working with all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what your mom would do always. We had that going between us, that your mom always made everybody in her cast happy.
And Les Mis.
Because, 'cause she was the kind of person that did that. And I loved that about her. And I felt I tried to do that too, including the stagehands and the wardrobe people. Everybody, you just make that family just keep happy and growing and saying hi to everybody and dealing with everybody. That just keeps everybody happy a little bit. And, what could I complain about?
Well, you have respect for what you're doing. It's a pretty great thing, and you're pretty lucky.
Yeah, I learned it too from the people that I was working with who did not have that attitude toward the show and would
It's not good for the
fluff
show.
off or would lose themselves and not really pay attention to the show and not give the show every night to the people, and make that happen. They didn't. I thought, but that's the wrong way to do this. We're blessed to do this.
Beyond when you got to a point in your run where it wasn't about providing for your family in the same capacity, what kept you interested in doing the show? What made you want to stay in it for as long as you did?
I stayed in it because I really liked my part.
Yeah.
I really loved the show.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was one of the best shows on Broadway ever. It was full every night, like she said.
Yeah.
Who gets to go to a Broadway show and for 24 years have a full house?
Yeah.
People are struggling all the time. Shows are struggling all the time. This was a big, fat thing that I got to be a part of.
Yeah.
It was a great part. I liked everybody in it. I liked myself in it. I just would say, people would say to me, are you still in that thing? Aren't you looking for something else? And I'm like saying, what do I want to look for something else?
Yeah. Yeah.
I already had a big fun career, and this was just the topping on the cake. This was like, and it was always good. It was always exciting and wonderful.
Yeah.
It's theater.
What was the thing then after 24 years that made you leave the show?
I was fired. I was let go.
No way.
Finally, Cameron McIntosh said, we're coming up to the 25th anniversary. And it's really funny because I got all new costumes. I had been wearing other people's costumes for a long time, Nick Wyman's costumes and Chris Groendahl's costumes, because it was stuff that was getting ruined. All of a sudden they came to me and said, we're getting you a whole new suit of clothes and we're getting you a new skeleton outfit. And we're going
expensive.
And I thought, I must be okay now. Because I worried about it every 6 months, like she said, because people were being let go.
Right.
And I said, I guess I'm okay. because they're getting me new costumes, and that's a big, big pay thing.
Right.
These were handmade costumes, big important things, and so but Cameron, he was trying to get the show away from Hal, and which he did finally. He took the show away from Hal, and wanted to do it his way and wanted to be the big boss, which is what he did. And one of the things that he did was he said, "Okay, Hal, now I'm going to change things. I want to change some things." And I know people told me later that Hal really fought that, and he really didn't want that to happen, but he finally gave in. And I was already there for such a long time, so we were called. I got a note in my dressing room, and it said, it was just a stupid little torn off piece of paper. It said, can you see the company manager tomorrow at 2 p.m.? And I'm like, oh, sure. And so I go back to my dressing room, and my partner's there, David Cryer, and I said, I got a note to see the company manager. And David said, me too. We're supposed to go tomorrow, right at 2:00. I said, yeah. What could that be about? What could that be about? And we thought about it. And all of a sudden I had a bright idea. I said, oh, I know what this is about. They did the Les Mis London anniversary in London, and they brought in all people from all over the world that had been in those companies, and that's how they did this big anniversary in London. Now comes the time, it's going to be time for the Phantom anniversary in London, and I bet they're going to invite all people from the various companies in the world from Phantom and bring them to London to do this anniversary. Oh. And I bet they're going to have David, you and me come
25th anniversary.
Do the managers. Maybe we won't do the managers, but maybe they'll just get us in the show somewhere. So David's like, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds good. So for that whole evening, I'm thinking, I think they're going to take us to London. They're going to take us to London. I went home. The next day I go to the office, and I'm walking up the stairs into the office, and it's all kind of dark in there. And all of a sudden I thought, no, there's something wrong here. This is not a happy time here. And they took me back into an office, and David, and they lowered the bomb and said, no, Hal was on the phone, and they said, you're gonna be gone after your next renewal. And so that's the end of that. So that was the end of that. And everybody was very sweet. And I walked down the stairs and I was so mad. I was really thinking things like, wait a minute, I get to say when I lead this show. Right. I don't know who they think they are telling me to lead the show. This is what I was going in my head.
Well, understandably so. I mean, you were in it for 24 years.
But after I walked a little bit, I thought, no, wait a minute. This is fine. This is fine.
You came home and you were mad.
No, I was mad, but I still said, this is all right. So Marty says to me, brilliant, she says, what you really need to do. I was just mad at Cameron. I thought, how does he do this? Just dump somebody. And Marty says, no, that's not how you have to go about this. You have to write Cameron, and you have to thank him for this brilliant experience that you've had in doing this show, that he has let you be a part of this show all these years, right, and kept you on. And I thought, you're right.
Yeah, he wrote a beautiful letter, and he got a beautiful letter back from Cameron. And then when they had the 30th anniversary, and Harper was invited to the big, giant, gorgeous party, and she had the best dress on of all the gowns of all the Broadway people. She had the best dress at the 30th. And at the 30th anniversary, which George was invited to, we all went, Cameron came up to George, and they were so sweet together. It was so lovely that it ended up that way.
Just showbiz. But God, no, it was a huge, of all the other gifts, it was just another huge gift.
Yeah. Well, shortly after you wrapped up Phantom, you went in to do Evita. Is that right?
Yeah, it's funny because that fits with this guy because he's addressing Smisky. He's putting his socks on, and I was saying the thing about Evita was I jump out of Phantom and jump into Evita, and then I did in Evita. I did, I think, 12 roles and 10 costume changes in Evita, and also I had to really dance. I had to really dance, dance, and for a couple of numbers in that show. But the thing that killed me in that show that was so difficult is changing costumes. I didn't have to do that in Phantom.
Good thing you're not in an Operation Mincemeat.
Yes. Changing costumes, changing shoes, changing socks, changing pants, changing the vest, changing shirts, changing a wig. I did 10 or 12 of those in the night.
Oh my gosh.
And I did it for a year. And that costume situation was one of the hardest things actually I ever did in my career was changing. But I loved the show and I loved doing the show.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was gonna ask you, because you both have done so much understudying, what your key was. Was it index cards? Was it, what was the thing? Because I've funny enough, when we were talking about Celebration, that was the first time I ever understudied, and for a brief moment, there was a moment where they had told me that I was gonna go on, and I was a wreck.
It's terrible. It's the worst job.
Yeah, right.
It's the worst job.
Yeah.
Because you're in
But
terror.
it's a job.
Yeah, it's true.
And
it's
maybe
true.
you'll go on and be, somebody's going to see you going on for some big role and say, hey.
Right.
And then, you never know how that's going to feed into something else.
Right. I mean, how prepared were you when you had to go on for Anne? And how prepared were you when you had to go on for the roles you
I've
did?
seen the Broadway shows so many times, and I was so in love with Victoria Mallory.
Yeah.
I was so in love with her shoulders. Oh, my God. And I just loved the way she did it. She was so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I just had it. That was indelible because I'd seen it so many times. And,
Right.
And then you'd go through the rehearsal process, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
So Hal came to me at this is just so much yakking away, but Hal came to me at the opening of Starting Here, Starting Now, and we went up to because David Shire wrote it, and he was married to Talia Shire, who was that we went up to Francis Ford Coppola's apartment in the Sherry, Netherlands, to have the opening night party. And so Hal came to me.
For Starting Here,
he
Starting
said, "Come
Now."
here, I want to talk to you." If this is after Starting Here, Starting Now, which was also one of the most greatest things ever. But Hal said, "Come here, I got to talk to you." He takes me in the bedroom, and he says, "I got a job. I got another job for you." And I said, "Oh, you do?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "We're doing On the 20th Century, and I want you to come and do On the 20th Century, and I want you to do Max Jacobs. But
And
I also want you to stand by for John Cullum. Now, I'm not going to have you be the understudy because you're beyond being an understudy. So you're going to be called the standby, and that's how you're going to be billed because you shouldn't be doing those understudies anymore." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." But it was really basically an understudy role.
Yeah.
But he just labeled it something else. He said, no, you shouldn't be don't do that anymore. So I went into the show and I studied my role. I did Max Jacobs. I loved doing it. And John Cullum, at that point, had finished doing Shenandoah for 7 years. And he never missed a performance in 7 years.
Wow.
So
on
I
opening
said,
night at the party,
I don't have to worry too badly about this, but of course you do anyway.
Yeah.
You're John's never going to be sick, so I'm never going to go on with this. As a matter of fact, John said to me at the opening night party in Boston, he was in his cups and he was drinking a lot, and I came up to get a couple of drinks for Marty and myself, and he's there drinking at the bar. He was already pretty loaded, and he turns over and he looks at me and he sees who it is, and he said, "You'll never get to play this part." He really did. Although I'm great pals with him now, I'm friends with him now, but that's what he said. And I thought to myself, I didn't need that. He was drunk. I didn't care, but I thought he's right. So we're doing the show, and all of a sudden I get a call. We're moving to New Hope, Pennsylvania. We get a call. John's sick. His voice is gone. You're going to have to go on tonight.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, oh my God. Okay. So I went into town, and I was not well. I was having cold and throat problems myself. And so I went on and did the show and about killed myself.
It's a big screamy role,
Do
you know that role?
Yeah, of course.
My friend said, my friend Rufus Smith, who was my dressing room mate, said, well, it's like doing Rigoletto every night, that role. And I'm like, oh. So I go back, and then the next day he was still sick. So I went back and I said to Rufus, Rufus, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting killed from doing this role. And Rufus said, okay, I'll tell you what. He said, will you put yourself in my hands? Here's what you do. And he told me, here's what you got to do to make this work. Every time you make any kind of an utterance, anything, a word, an exclamation, a piece of music, you have to fill your chest before you do it. You have to before you do that, you got to go, and then you can go ahead and do that. And you have to do that for the whole show, every time you say or do anything that's vocal. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try that. And I went and did it, and I made it through that performance, and it worked. It got me through. And then John came back. Did he come back?
Too soon.
He came back after I've done it 2 times, I think. Came back for the 3rd performance, and then he hurt himself. So then they took him out, and then he had to be out for a month and a half.
Oh my gosh.
So I got to
Going on
do the
again.
role.
Because they don't have understudies for understudies.
Right.
So I got to do the role for a month and a half. I didn't even think I'd ever get to do it. But I did. Anyway.
That's funny.
Where are all these stories coming from?
Well, good. This is the perfect time for them to come out.
I must have been in show business for 80 years.
It's kind of amazing though, because and also I should mention I love On the 20th Century, and it's funny that revival that happened, I think really brought it to, that's the reason I know it.
It was great too.
As I do. Yeah.
Great.
But not as great as the original.
Oh yeah. But it's funny, like you mentioned, you both have had such long, beautiful careers in the theater, and what's amazing about that is that you've passed that on to, it's a legacy career. You know what I mean? Like you all your kids, your kids and your grandkids are in show business. And I guess like it's a silly question to ask, but also when I think about the fact that, my parents weren't in, show business or interested in entertainment industry or anything like that, but for some reason I developed a knack for it, and then my love for musical theater has spread to Christian and spread to Angel in a way. There's something about it that's I don't know, there's like a I guess pride is the wrong word, but there's a type of pride that I take in the fact that in certain respects Christian knows more about certain things in musical theater than I do, or film, or and she knows her own.
It's theater. It's a lovely place to be when you are able to get yourself in there and work in that situation. It's the most wonderful place to be.
But your parents got you started in children's theater.
That's true. Yeah.
So you got a taste for it early on.
Yeah.
Christian, you were like 5 when you first did something?
No. Yeah, you were 5 when you did your first show. Yeah. I could tell you that when I was Angel's age, I don't think I knew who Hal Prince and Sondheim were. You know what I mean? Like,
how old were you?
When I was Angel's age, when I was 15, I don't think I knew who they were. I didn't learn who they were until probably around, going into college,
Well, that wasn't very long ago.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. And also in the same breath, I'm like, you grew up with this, Harper. You know what I mean? Like, and there's something, what does it mean to you is a silly question, but I guess a valid one. It's like, what does it mean to you that you've set up like a legacy of theater and people who are interested in making art,
Yeah.
If you can do it, it's the best place to be. as I went through my career and went through this and that and working in Milwaukee, working in Chicago, blah, blah, blah. And I finally thought, well, is this really a good thing to do? Is this really the right place to be and everything like that? And I finally said, yes, it's really the best place to be. And
Yeah.
I always quote, not always, but I quote Edith Evans, who said, theater, it's the illumination of the human heart. That's what it is. That's what we're doing. And that has more value than anything. What else? People can say whatever they want to about making money or being in business or be even teaching or anything you want to do. But I'll tell you, theater, it's the illumination of the human heart, and that's what we all need.
And I think what's really important also about it is the connection. And it is a connection of you with the audience. It's a definite symbiotic relationship that way.
Right.
It's your connection with your team. You know, you have the ball, then you throw the ball to the next person and so you rely upon one another, and it's very much connected, you know, and there's a spiritual connection, you know, there's an artistic idea, and there's a visual and a musical and you know, it's just a very exciting thing in that it's connective.
Right.
And that
It's a very lovely family. It's a very brilliant, this family of theater. You guys, we're all now in this family together. And it's a very wonderful family. The people that we've worked with, and we have dear friends always. And these are all, we had a family because we said, let's have a family and share it with our people that we love in the theater. And that's what we've always done, and that's what your family has always done, and it's the family of theater, and there's nothing much better.
And it's creation, you know, it's the creative spirit. It's so fun to go and see Harper and Sasha do all those Depot theater shows in Garrison, New York, from the time they were very little. And they would do every role, and you just would want to see how they're going to create this role, Marion the Librarian, or on the town, Harper, you know, doing Fiddler on the Roof, Harper. And I mean, they did all the roles, they did all the shows, and they got to do it as little kids. And we came to every single show in high school, at the Depot Theater, in grade school, in junior high school, at Wagner.
Notably Anne in Little Night Music.
Yeah. And there have been triumphs with these people in our
all
family.
of her shows.
Triumphs from that girl, triumphs from her sister, triumphs from her mother,
Yeah.
triumphs from our other grandkids, and our daughter. And except Rob. Rob doesn't have the one.
Well, no, Robbie was the scarecrow and
he was
Wizard
the
of Oz.
scarecrow.
Yeah,
That's
second-
right.
Don't
Second
forget.
grade, and it's one of
And
the
he was
greatest
great.
things
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
That's funny.
But Dave and our son-in-law Aaron, he's amazing, and so they keep doing this and thrilling us.
Yeah.
And knowing that they're a part of this, we're thrilled. We're thrilled with that.
Well, there's a magic to it, right?
Yeah.
Magic to it.
There's a definite magic, some beautiful magic to it.
Yeah. I agree. I can almost get a little emotional. I want to ask you about Starting Here, Starting Now. There's, in particular, the song, I Don't Remember Christmas, because I was listening to your rendition of it, and I think I knew the song, but not very well. And this week, in listening to it over and over again, and I showed it to them too, it's like, what I find so interesting about this song, and I was wondering if you could speak to this, is the idea that it feels like an easy song to be angry through. You know, it feels like and yet what I find in your renditions of it is that there's it's funny, right? And also there's a levity to the idea that he continues to say that he doesn't remember, and yet the subtext being that he can't help but remember, you know? So I was wondering if you could speak to that and how to avoid playing into the anger of it. Yeah.
Because of the song, it's a brilliant little song.
Yeah.
And you were just there when I did it for those guys, Maltby and Shire, at a little concert we did. And before I sang it, I said, "Listen, this is to thank these guys for this song."
Yeah.
that I've gotten to do.
Yeah.
And the song plays itself, and I've actually done it in some different ways. I've done it, but there's always that edge in there, and the edge has humor in it. So you can play the edge, but you're still working on the outside of it with humor and satirical thoughts, and so it can't fall into like just anger,
Right. Right.
It's the song is more than that, and it's written so cleverly that you can get angry and you can put a little anger in, and usually by the end of it, I'll pop it in with a good anger moment. But basically, the song won't just support that all the way through. There's too much other stuff going on that's really clever and wonderful and interesting, and different feelings. He gets upset and he gets mad,
but it's all moving. It's very.
All just
there's so much
along.
motion, and the accompaniment is wild.
Oh,
it's a wild ride.
Right.
That accompaniment is just so. It just moves like nobody's business. So you can't stay being mad. You have to move through all of that stuff and get to the end. And sort of, I think somebody analyzed it in another book, that song, and called it a song of regret, not of anger. He said it was a...
Well, it has that. Yeah, it has that. It has that. Because
was,
he's saying goodbye to a relationship, and he's mad at that. He's mad at losing that relationship, but it was just one of those gifts, that somebody came up with. I mean, that show was done first in another
at Yale
incarnation with the two girls and a different guy. And so they decided to revive it, and they said, we don't want this guy, though. We'd like to get somebody else to do this part of this guy. And so they had seen us do something together, and they said, let's see, what about George, So I got into it, and then we started rehearsing it, and all of a sudden, like that little night music moment when Steve walks in with Send in the Clowns, those guys come, they said, we just put this song together last night, a new song for George, because we think he needs a new song. So
it's fire.
So we're going to, here's this new song that he's going to sing. And they do this song. And that was like, holy cow.
It's a good audition song. It makes such an impact.
Yeah. And it's a good cabaret song, because it tells you the whole story right there.
And it really moves, It's just so exciting. God.
Yeah. Right. I have just a couple more things I want to touch on before we wrap up. I want to ask you both about Merlin.
You're hitting all the stuff.
Yes, because I watched the Tony performance on YouTube, and it is so wacky, crazy, cool. And I've also been like, why has there not been a musical that's incorporated magic in this way? But also the cast included Cheetah Rivera, Nathan Lane, Christian Slater. I mean, like, what the heck? Can you talk a little bit about? And you get to do it together. Right? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about?
Well, he started. I was doing another Broadway show, and then when that ended, I went and auditioned, and Cheetah, for my audition, gave me her eyelashes. And I wore Cheetah's eyelashes for good luck. And
oh, my gosh.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
But Ivan Reitman
directed.
So that's a funny guy.
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
They couldn't make it work. They couldn't. And we did previews for like 4 months, and the critics were starting to get really mad because they were saying, you can't keep previewing.
Right.
You got to open this thing.
Right.
So they finally did open, but people couldn't get a handle on it properly. It was difficult to make it work in the context of the magic and everything and all that stuff. But one of the great things was, for me, was Ivan Reitman came one day and said, okay, we need a new opening. We're going to give a new opening. We're going to make a new opening, write a new song, and we're going to say it's about magic, and we're going to have old Merlin do it, which was me.
Right.
I thought, oh, gee, Yes, please.
you
Let's
saw
do
that.
that.
Yes, that was what I saw. Yeah.
Let's give me a song opening the show.
That was a fun. That's a great song to do.
It's a great song.
That's so much fun to do that number.
And it introduced the whole situation
And there was
and everything.
magic in it, and the ballerina from New York City Ballet that played the unicorn. That was legitimate ballet in the show. And
So I was supposed to be. I levitated when it opened. If you see it, and I levitated, came up, and then I started doing the song. And what happened was they didn't put the chorus. They didn't put my mic in the what do you call those things that are on stage?
The monitor.
monitors.
The monitors. Jeez. The speakers that were on stage, they didn't put my voice in there. They had the chorus in the monitors, and so it was a big chorus number, but it was my solo. So, and also they said we're going to tape it. Yeah, no, we're taping it, and so but when I was doing it with a live orchestra, which means I worked with the conductor. Well, all of a sudden it's set. It's a recording, and it's got a certain length that's stuck. And if I didn't end the phrase at the right thing, I didn't have a conductor to work with to see that. So I'd end up, two things. Number one, I couldn't hear myself in the monitors. So I started singing so loud. I was just like singing at the top of my lungs at this Tony performance. And just like I really killed my voice trying to do that because I was trying to. And the other thing was I'd get to the end of a phrase and I'd say what I needed to say, but it wasn't the end of the phrase in the tape. So I'd say what I needed to say, and then to fill it in, I would go, ha ha! And if you watch the tape, and if you, just to fill in that time.
That is really funny.
Really. And so I would do my speech. I'd do my speech, and then I'd get to the end of the speech, and then there was, I had to fill that in. Yeah. So I'd do that silly thing, and then start singing as loud as I could. So it was funny. A little terrifying, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is very fun to watch, and it's really funny. Yeah, that's great. I love that. I wanted to ask you a little bit of like a state of the industry question. What have you guys seen lately, or things that you've seen recently that you've really enjoyed?
We love most stuff that we say, do we?
We saw.
We don't see a lot.
Phil Boykin's show.
Hadestown?
Orpheus.
Hadestown.
Hadestown.
Yeah, he's great in that film.
Hadestown late in the game.
Yeah.
We saw Operation Mincemeat.
Oh, yeah.
We saw the Tony Award Outsiders.
Oh, yeah. Did you like that?
Yeah. We saw Bad Cinderella.
Oh.
My.
Right. That was a couple of years ago.
Help us all. And David Zippel, who wrote the lyrics, is a really good friend of ours. So,
Yeah.
But
that's funny, though.
But he just put together a Burt Bacharach show that's happening right now on 64th Street in this little theater in the back of the Y. It's a whole Burt Bacharach show. And Burt Bacharach is way before your time. But
no, I know Burt Bacharach. Well, he recently passed away.
It's a really good
show. And
yeah.
I think they did that show, if I'm thinking of the same show, I think they just did it at Ogunquit. Was that the... I can't remember what the name of it is. If you could look it up for me, if you find it.
The Bacharach show?
Yeah.
David directed it. David Zippel directed it.
I think they did it somewhere. I think they did it at Ogunquit in Maine, but I can't remember. I think either last summer or this past summer.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so. It was
really good.
I can't remember what it was called, but and actually Matt Doyle was in it. Like, it's coming back to me now. And Michaela Thatcher was in it. Yeah, and it was can you look it up? Because I'm blanking on what it's called right now. But if I'm right, it was based on a movie, but they took Burt's songs and put them into it.
No,
unless this is a different show.
This is a review.
Okay.
This is a club act.
Okay. So I'm not thinking of the same show.
Yeah.
Okay.
My best friend's wedding.
My best friend's wedding. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. And that was a bunch of Burt Bacharach music. But I guess this is a different piece.
But George and I, it's so frustrating because I've lost hearing. I'm really pretty darn deaf, and so we both have hearing aids. So the hearing, we miss so much. We miss 2/3 of what's going on stage now, and
Wow.
it's so frustrating. It's
Yeah.
just so incredibly
Like, for instance, trying
frustrated.
to keep up with Operation Mincemeat.
for gosh
And we could see
It just-
how really brilliant it was and how brilliant, but just missed so much of it because we couldn't get connected with the words,
Right,
properly.
So I went to see a show, and
So-
and my hearing device that I had gotten before the show wasn't working, and I took it back. I said, "This doesn't work." Okay, I'll give you another. I said, I just wish I could have the script in my lap.
Yeah.
I'd like to just read it while
Like
I'm listening.
captions or
And
something,
she said,
yeah.
"We actually have a device." I'm like, "What?" So she gave me this little thing. It looks like a phone,
Wow.
and it has all the words, everything, the
Wow.
whole show. And it's kind of funny to sit there because everybody had been cautioned to turn their phones off because
Right.
they're so distracting.
Right.
And then so but now they have this little device. you
Wow.
can read.
That's interesting.
But
I don't think I
it's
knew
no
that.
fun to miss. It's no fun to miss anything.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
sure.
that's a little frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I'll take that. We have
And when we're home watching
Yeah.
television, we have words.
The
We have
subtitles.
words to read.
Right. We have a tradition on our podcast where we manifest a dream guest. So we want to ask you guys to manifest someone for us to have on the podcast. And we've been lucky enough to have a couple of dream guests. I mean, you guys both feel like dream guests in and of itself with all your stories. But we've been lucky enough to have a couple of them. Like we had Jerry Zaks on, he was a dream guest.
Yeah.
And, anyone you could think of, someone to manifest for us.
Judy Kay.
Ooh. Oh my gosh, that's real good.
Oh, she'd do
That was
it.
quick too.
Yeah,
Oh,
Judy
I
Kay.
love
She's
that.
got a
And Terry
long,
Ralston,
brilliant career.
Terry from Company, she was in Company.
Oh.
And she was in a Little Night Music original.
Oh wow.
yes.
Okay, yeah,
Terry
I'll take both
Ralston.
of them.
Big time.
Actually, Judy Kay's such big time because she's got so many Tonys and things like that. Judy Kay.
Judy.
Yeah, I love it. I'll take it. That's great.
She's a
Yeah.
sweetheart.
That's perfect.
But also, the original star of Celebration, Michael Glenn Smith,
Yes, you mentioned him.
he
Yes.
lives in the East Village. He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of great theater stories.
Yeah.
He'd be a cool guy.
And then I want to ask you for your Mount Rushmore musicals, the musicals that you both think are like, the equivalent to Mount Rushmore. And Mount Rushmore is 4, but we could give 5. Like your top 5, your top 5 musicals. What would you say that they are?
A Little Night Music. Phantom of the Opera.
My Fair Lady,
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Carousel
Ooh.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the Fantastics.
Yes.
Because the Fantastics is it's difficult. It's a little gem.
Yeah.
It has to be handled right.
Right.
And definitely the Fantastics.
And they're bringing it back now, apparently.
Are they?
Yeah.
I think
It'll always be around.
I think it's going to be like
It's 2 boys.
boys
that's right.
And Chris Catelli.
mother or women as
Yes. As the parents. Yeah.
Yes.
So it should be interesting. Yeah.
That's Dan Shaheen that's going to do that.
Oh,
And
cool.
He's
Yeah, and Chris Catelli, I think, is directing it.
Who?
Chris Catelli.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we started the podcast by asking you who is your I want to be like you as a kid, and we want to wrap up the podcast by asking you who is your I want to be like you now, and it could be someone in your life. It doesn't have to be, a celebrity. It could be whoever you'd like.
I guess Buddha, right?
It's a good answer.
No, I'm happy being who I am.
Good.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Harper would be a really great person to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's one of the greatest people. Honest to God,
She
that's
is.
the truth. Not
She
just
is.
because I've known her since she was born.
Yeah.
So when Harper was born,
That's true.
we were in Stratford, Ontario, and we were staying at the home of an actor from Stratford, Ontario, and his wife, who was the head of the costume department. We were old friends from having done a Julie Stein musical in Edmonton, Canada, and they were Canadian. So we were in Stratford, Ontario, and we hear that Jennifer is going to have her first little baby girl, and we thought her name was going to be Parker. So we were
from
making up
Jordan.
songs. So we drove from Stratford, Ontario, all the way to Philadelphia, where Harper was born so that we could see the little baby on her first day. And we get there and it wasn't Parker at all, it was Harper.
It was Jordan.
Originally
Yes,
supposed
Oh, we thought it was Jordan?
Yes.
Which is so
you're right,
random
Mark.
to me.
It wasn't Parker.
Was that the original intent?
How
Was
did
that like what
they
your mom?
come up with that? Like so
Jordan.
random.
That's
But
funny.
no, your mother said something like it was going to be
I mean,
Jordan.
she had to have, but like just thinking of the parents that I have, I'm like random.
Jordan.
Yeah, really weird.
That is really
Weird
funny.
choice.
That is
But,
really
you know,
funny.
Harper's mom, Jennifer, loved the book
To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird
Yeah.
by
no
Harper
Jordan in that.
Lee.
Ah,
And so she named Harper after Harper Lee, and then she named her second child, Sasha, who's Sasha Scout,
right.
after Scout. To Kill a
Oh
Mockingbird.
wow! Oh wow! That's really cool.
Yeah, that
I
was
love that. And for what it's worth, I can tell you that. And this is in Harper puts in the work, but also Harper's talent is clearly genetic. Because throughout school, I always thought you had one of the most amazing voices, and I
That's true.
True.
it really is. Yeah.
And what I love is her heart and how kind she is.
Yeah.
How kind and how totally
Not
smart
about- so not
and
about me.
brilliant.
Yeah.
See, I don't want to be, and I can't think of anybody else who I want to be because,
You want to be Harper. You do.
no, I want to be me
I don't think so.
in this family.
Yeah.
thing.
I'm really thrilled with this family that I have and the career that I've had.
Yeah.
And so I'm not looking for anything
That's
else,
perfect.
really.
That's a
I'm just
perfect
happy
answer.
there.
You're gonna wound up gaining followers from this because we keep mentioning your name, Harper Lee
Yeah,
Andrews.
let's do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I want to come to my show.
Yeah, right. I want to say that like this is really such a treat, and like a big part of the reason why we do this is to preserve stories like the ones that you guys just told. So I want to thank you from the
many.
bottom of my heart for coming here because it's like really such a treat. Thank you guys. Thank you
Elbi,
guys. Thank
thanks
you
for,
so much.
awesome.
for doing
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so
for
much.
doing this.
Thanks,
George and Marty Lee Andrews. Woo woo! I Want to Be Like You with Elbi Cespedes is produced by Elbi and Christian Cespedes. Special thanks to Angelina Cespedes, Vincenzo Salvatore Cakes, Kirsten Blue Kaiser, Harper Lee Andrews, and of course, George and Marty Lee Andrews.